Home Sweet Home by Richard James Palmer. 50 pages, 38 photographs, measures just under 12 inches by 8.5, just over 8 inches. The board covers about, it feels quite thick, it's about 300 GSM. It looks like a matte finish, and the pictures throughout the book feel like a matte, could be a pearl, but I'm not too sure. Got a nice sheen to them. The pages I think roughly must be 170 GSM, and the board's quite thick. Self-published. I love receiving books like this, and I'm interested in buying books like this because I think it's really important when you're shooting something, an idea, a concept, that you think about the book, or you think about the exhibition, or you think about the output, either before you shoot it, while you're shooting it. If you're working to an end, you can work backwards on the project, the idea, the title, the finished product, and start working on a stronger, tighter narrative to get you to that final output, which is going to sort of show that you're saying something about your study, about your work, your photography. Having looked through this book before I show you, and I had a skim through it, I like the concept, and I'm hoping that it's a beginning of something for Richard. And it's fantastic that he's put it at this stage in a book. But let's go through it. So like I said, there's 50 pages, 38 photographs, front cover. That's a postcard, and this is an introduction. This was number 4475, so it's an edition of 75. £15, I think you can buy this for on Richard's website. Home Sweet Home is an exploration of the northeast of England, the area I was raised and still reside. The project primarily concentrates on the people and places on the fringes of society. The act of navigating and documenting it has broadened my relationship and understanding of my environment. And that's exactly the right reasons to do something like this. Photography is amazing for that. It really teaches you to understand things. It teaches you to look at things in a certain way and form an opinion on it, but also be able to take something away from it to educate other people. And we all see things differently. We all look at things the different ways, and the photography is a really great, amazing tool to show the world what you're thinking about and how you see the world. And this book's about that. It's about the things Richard's looking at each day, every day, the things he's growing up with and living with, where he hangs out, where he goes for a drink, where he goes to work, where his youth was. And he's discovering, or he has discovered, the symbols, the motifs, the essence of the place which makes up that place. And he's using photography as a tool to shoot it. And first of all, this picture, when I first looked at it, the first person that came into my mind when I looked at it was Ken Grant in his Liverpool series, where he was looking at the waste ground, but some of the fringes of the areas in Liverpool where he was photographing. And it's just that sort of colour tone, that 90s, almost, it feels like it's sort of that technique of like the yellow filter and the sort of grey overtones of the place. So anyway, I'm not saying it is, I just sort of love the fact that it just reminded me of a Ken Grant picture. I love the way he's got the bird there. It was all shot in a Mamiya 7, 80mm lens, HP5 Tri-X. So it's all medium format. And there's some really good obvious design elements within this, which he's done well with. And I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. And look at the rugby post in the buildings. It's really good. Nice horizontals, really nice grey. Again, that sort of greyness, which I really like, and is really synonymous of that, almost for me, that 90s, early 90s black and white photography, like the Peter Marlowe's and the Ken Grants and many, many more. So there's a guy in a bus. As you can see, he's just carrying his camera with him when he's out and about. And these are the elements, the things which are away from the things we see every day. And it's interesting, the things we usually and often miss day by day. If you stand in one place, in a place like in a town centre, things will happen if you stay there long enough. I think these are the sort of places we walk by all the time and we don't take much notice of. And these little things which appear within that environment, like the shopping trolley, the discarded shopping trolley, the rubbish. And I like the way he's using light. He's doing good. I think the using the light, he's got a good idea. He's got a nice eye with what he's doing. And he's seeing things. And that's the most important thing. I'll just bring this up a little bit. He's seeing things. And that's what's really important. And I think it's really important to show these elements. And it's a different perspective, isn't it? It's definitely the sort of things we walk by every day. We take no notice of, or we just take for granted. I like the way he's actually using the environment. He's not scared to shoot and use the whole environment to set the scene for the sofa. And it's classic sort of. Now, I'll just skim forward a little bit. One thing I'm not seeing in the book, which I would have liked, is some text. One thing for me, which I think this project concept, as it moves on, could do with, is a few more dimensions, a few more layers to just give it some elevation. Because I think the pictures are fantastic. And you can see he's worked hard and he knows what he's looking for. What's also interesting is when you live in a place, you do tend to take it for granted. And it is hard work making yourself explore the same place. Obviously some people can do that. And Richard's trying to show that he can do that. He's looking and looking and looking. He's looking for them little odd moments. There's a nice sort of darkness to it. There's definitely a feel of an abandonment. A sort of uniqueness of the environment he's witnessing every day. It's not easy shooting stuff like this, and he's seeing stuff like that, but he's also thinking of the space around it, and it's really interesting. He likes shapes, he likes textures, he likes patterns. I'm interested in the darkness he's doing. I like this sort of deep, dark feel to it. It's almost like shadowy. Now that could have been in the print. If you want to check his actual pictures and see the difference in clarity, go on the website and have a look. So sometimes when you're printing stuff, especially in black and white, they can sort of come in a little dark, so you have to be a little careful if you haven't proofed it. Looks like Newcastle town centre. Nice use of light. And he's shooting medium format, rangefinder. It's not that easy, you know. You have to you can't just snap, snap, snap. And he's not seeing any of this. You've got to remember he's sort of shooting from the eye, and his technical ability to capture images at the correct exposure. And he's using composition well. There's no sort of bottom heaviness, and you can see it's the right lens for that. It's nice. Sometimes when you're shooting it a bit wider, you sort of tend to bottom heavy pictures. It's a natural thing that you look down, and then if it's on like a wider lens, this sort of elongates itself. It's a thing I see quite a lot. This is obviously where the title of the book originated from. Sweet home. Empty, barren places where people are normally. I guess it's like the hoodie. It's especially stuff like that, you know. Great use of designs. Nice use of shape. Good composition elements. Not scared again. Just show the detail of the landscape. Good use of composition. Sort of bleak landscape. That's nice. There's some nice stuff here. I think that's the last shot, and then there's some information. That's his website, his Instagram, his email, and then thanks to Home Sweet Home. Now, I only touched on it before about where maybe you could elevate this project. Now, I might be wrong, and this is just my opinion, and please debate in the comment section. I'm wondering if this needs a few elements, some form of map, some form of geographical identity with the places. Like say here, there could be a sort of a map or something which will take it and give it more information and more context to why maybe you're focusing on here, on this shopping centre, Eldon Square, somewhere like that. Now, having some geographical reference, which brings the whole thing together, like almost, is it on a boundary of a town centre? Is it on the boundary of a city centre? Is it in the boundary of that little area you live in? Could be like Elsick or up Scotswood Road or Arthur's Hill or somewhere association around that place, or Heaton or something like that where he lives, and you have like a geographical map of where these pictures are forming and why. Somebody who did something similar with the geographics is Mark Power, and he did a system of edges which, when he was flicking through an A to Z of London, which is like a sort of, looks almost like the size of a A5 zine, but it's quite thick. It's got like a spiral bind in it, if you have never seen it, but presumably most people have. He noticed on the front page, which opened out, was a sort of reference guide to all the pages. So it was like page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it was all contained within the map of London. But what he noticed was that the maps ended here, but there was still London, which went past the maps of what the A to Z of London was focused on. So what he did was, roughly, he photographed around all these edges of London A to Z map, and that became 26 different endings. And that was his documentation of where the maps ended of London. And that gave it some reference, it gave you some geographical area to focus on. It brought it all together. Now, another thing, away from the geographics, it says something like that, which is this guy eating some chips. Let me just bring it up slightly. How about something like what John Anderson does, where he takes a picture of a place or time for a reason, and that reason is normally like the English journey, which was a chart of a route. It was like a route through England, and then he'd photograph the place. But then what he'd do is he'd do some sort of shot which is relevant to the place, like a map or something from a junk shop or something like that, where you've got the polystyrene box and the fork, which is like, you know, or a few chips. Polystyrene box, shoot the polystyrene box in a sort of studio environment or with a neutral background, and start showing sort of like artifacts of the time. So you've got, is that shot about the man? Is that shot about the place? Or is that shot about him eating chips? So once you decide, then you put this relevant to here. You could also do what somebody like John Anderson does, hunt through some junk shops, find some historical stuff, find some things which are relevant, and start adding them to the project. And I think there's another project he's got on his website, which is Against the Wall or something like that. And he's shooting portraits of people he's met in front of a brick wall. And with this, I wonder if you could do a sort of dialogue to it, like with these guys behind the wall. Maybe do some videos of them, maybe get them talking to the camera or getting them just recorded with audio, and try and make it into sort of a multimedia approach and adapt it. So with something like this, you've got, you know, just maybe finding some information from people. Here there might be the caretaker of the land or something, like the grounds or something like that. What's this guy thinking? It's interesting. Like, what's this guy doing? And I'm not saying do that. All I'm saying is, I think this is a lovely book. I think it's a really important attempt to develop a narrative within what you're shooting and then reflect back on it. I wouldn't throw away or discard the B edits for this book, because I know Richard put aside some of these shots which he ended up in here. I would get them all back together and start evolving the project into something bigger with all the stuff, because once you start taking on new directions and new ideas, the pictures you left out on the initial edit could become quite important on a new edit, but also on what you need to do next and what you need to shoot next. That's just my views. Thank you, Richard. I love this. It's really important that you do stuff like that. If anybody wants to send me some work in progress stuff, I'd love to see it. I'd love to talk about it. Just my views, just off the cuff. I love photography. I just want to talk about it. I want to help people. Please share the channel. Please subscribe. Please like, make some comments, debate, and I'll put the links for Richard's website and stuff in the information box. Thanks for listening.
We are floored, we are bound down, see us, careless corpse, see us, steal the dawn, we are storm. We are storm. See us born, see us wind down, see us fly